All right, welcome back. Strap in, buckle up, grab your favorite candy or some popcorn because we're going to be diving into Somnia, a L1 that claims 1 million plus TPS, transactions per second, sub-second finality, and a fee model that burns 50% of the gas. Either this thing becomes the chain for real-time games, social, metaverse, etc., or it's just another my TPS is bigger than yours flex. What's the actual case here? We're going to dive into it as we always do. I'm excited to talk about this because I spent a good amount of time researching it. And we're going to start off as we always do with the narrative and vision here for Somnia. So you can see their website here. Again, I think the most important thing to take away here from this, and their website is kind of interesting. It's kind of gamified. You can scroll around and, look at their ecosystem and everything, which we'll take a look at kind of what they're offering. But to back up a bit, what is it at a high level? It's just an L1 that's trying to be super fast. The reason is they are trying to have real-time consumer apps, meaning games, social, think, X or Twitter, metaverse. The mainnet is live. Under the hood, they have MultiStream consensus, which, not to get too technical, but validators write to their own data chains. Then a separate consensus chain finalizes it using Byzantine fault tolerance. It's whatever. It looks good and the tech is there. Then they have IceDB, which is basically their own sort of really fast database. But why build this, right? What's the pain? And I think they put the current state of what the pain is here pretty clearly, in that a lot of these blockchains currently, ETH, Polygon, Base, Arbitrum, etc., they're fast, but they're not fast enough, right? You can see some of the numbers. Somnia is aiming for 1 million plus TPS, like I mentioned, because most of these chains, they kind of faceplant when you try fully on-chain, stateful, low latency type of projects. Their mission is basically Web 2 scale with Web 3 ownership. That means sub 1 cent fees and latency that doesn't make your, whatever game you're playing feel like you're on dial-up. Now, why does this matter? Well, unlike GPU or AI tokens or generic sort of fast L1s, Somnia's stack is kind of tuned for interactive, low latency consumer apps, and it offers a dev cost curve for the developers, meaning volume discounts and transient storage you don't see sort of elsewhere on these other chains. If they deliver real world concurrency, not just testnet benchmarks, which is what is current, they'll carve a niche bigger than just fun TPS charts. But here's the reality check for this is that their claims of 1 million plus TPS need to translate to mainnet throughput. And they need apps, right? I took a look at a lot of these apps and they're still very, very early. So if you look at the browser, I tried to pull up some of these games and I don't want to sign up with my Google account and all this stuff, but they have like Cafe Cosmos here. So there's stuff being built on Somnia, but the question is, are people actually playing this? Are they using Cafe? Oh my God. Let me turn that down. You can see here, even to start playing this game, you need to purchase 10 by 10 land, and the land costs 5 Somnia, right? So they're integrated with stuff. They have a ton on here. They have a ton on their website, but the issue is anybody actually there, right? This is more of a, if you build it, will they come? So again, the pros here are that I do like the vision. I think this space is still super early. A lot of the other tokens, like I mentioned, like they've done some of these benchmarks here, it can be better. And Somnia is trying to do that. The rub of it kind of remains, will they be able to, right? And will they launch anything sticky enough to actually get a following, actually get a ton of people? I mean, they have a huge social presence, almost 500,000 followers on X. So they're doing the right things. It's just whether or not they can grow properly. So they need some killer D-apps. The high TPS claims, they have to sort of show up in mainnet analytics, not just marketing. And there's fierce competition in the L1 space. So they have a steep hill to climb. But with all that said, I do like what they're doing. I do like the tech, which you can kind of see. You can go through this yourself. It's really technical, for lack of a better word. But overall, I think the project is solid. So I gave it a score of 16 out of 20 for the narrative and the vision. And we can move on to the tokenomics and supply. Again, this just released a couple of days ago here in early September. They have 1 billion SOMI. The allocations are about 11% for the team, 15% for some launch partners, 15% for investors. The ecosystem gets about 27%, and the community gets about 27%. So the thing to take away here is that they have good transparency, right? They're very transparent about how the token is sort of issued, but you can see we're very, very early with the token unlocks. There's multi-year unlocks here up until 2029. So that kind of kneecaps the price in between any kind of catalysts that they might have. So not too bad though. I gave the tokenomics and supply a 13 out of 20. And we can move on to the tech and execution. I've already kind of mentioned some of this in terms of how they're actually trying to deploy this. But the takeaway here for me is that the architecture is coherent. It makes sense to me. You have the data chains, you have the consensus chain that kind of validates, you have the compiled EVM, you have their sort of IceDB, which is the really fast database, if you want to think about it like that. The streaming compression, devs get fee discounts and sort of storage choices, which gives them flexibility. The tooling and the documentation, they're live, right? The mainnet is up, validators are spinning. Now prove it with real apps, right? You have to build something good, something people will use. But the tech and execution, to me, it's there. I gave it a 14 out of 20. You can see there's sort of use cases, as I mentioned in the beginning: gaming, SocialFi, metaverse, DeFi, real-time apps, etc. So tech and execution is there. It's just, will they build anything cool that people will actually want to use on a consistent basis? That's really the question here. For market structure and liquidity, very liquid. They had a pretty incredible launch. I mean, there's 7 pages of markets here. They're on Uniswap. They're on Binance already. They have a $200 million market cap. The volume, again, it's on launch, so these are skewed, but the volume is insane. So you can get clapped on this. So be careful if you're jumping in right away. Don't buy into green candles like a clown. Sorry, but it is what it is. A lot of these launch with a lot of hype and then kind of sputter out. Give it a few weeks. I'm going to go into sort of how I would actually invest or trade in this towards the end, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on that. But let's give it a score. Market structure and liquidity, 11 out of 20. Solid, but nothing too crazy here. We'll talk about exit risk and VC stakes here next. The one thing that I think you need to take away for exit risk is that validators need 5 million SOMI to run a node. Okay, delegators have options. So you have to read the fine print. Some pools show 28-day locks. The big risks here are adoption, competition, and the unlock calendar. If you don't have a breakout app, you're going to be the exit liquidity. So for that reason, exit risk and VC stakes, I didn't burn them too hard, but I gave them a 10 out of 20, which does give us a final verdict, a final score of 64 out of 100. This is a high risk, high reward play. The L1 space is fierce, so they really have to deliver, and those are the catalysts you need to be looking for. If they land a killer game or social app and that 50% burn starts chewing through the supply, you got to re-rate the price and you're going higher. If not, it's just fast blocks and faster bag rotations, hype marketing. For this, you really need to trade the catalysts, right? Manage your size. This is something that you would have to be sort of checking their X feed constantly to see sort of what they're releasing. I definitely wouldn't suggest YOLOing 5 million SOMI to spin up a validator unless you actually need it. Delegations exists. You need to read the fee and lock rules for this, but watch if they actually ship a big D app, right? A big studio or social integration or a credible DEX. Those are the buy-in windows. If there's no catalyst, this is just another L1 with high proposed TPS. If you don't have an actual app showing that throughput on the mainnet, then that's all it is. It's just a number that you could potentially do, but you're not. So I like the project overall. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on it. And that's how I would sort of trade or invest on it, is catalyst driven for this sort of thing. But I think the tech and execution, definitely is there for this. This was super interesting to do a deep dive on. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this cleared up a little bit about what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. It's definitely going to be on my watch list. If you made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you so much for sticking it out with me, for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do already. I'm not even going to ask you for it. And as always, I'll see you next time.